Where is he?
That's a good question. He's right behind, isn't he? Yeah.
There he is. Oh, he
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
So yeah, if you couldn't tell, the Isle 10 update is kinda crazy. I personally loved it, despite all the delays and bugs early on. I mean, trust me, if it was bad, I wouldn't have replayed it at least 7 times to get all the badges. The animations for this ending are amazing though, and the new storyline is really interesting, but it's left a lot of players wondering what it all means. I mean, what's at the root of all this? And also, what the hell turns this into this? I swear to God, this image haunts me in my nightmares. Well, it's Umbra, but what exactly is Umbra? I mean, there are so many questions left unanswered, such as what Stan is, where the three serpents come from, and what even happened for the island to become so desolate. I'm going to try my best to decipher the new lore, though do please keep in mind that a lot of this is speculation, and a lot of things are still up for creative debate in the community. Anyways, I'm not going to make y'all listen to my boring yapping anymore, so let's get right into it. B Corp originally started out as a technologically based company, creating the leading advancements in tech, especially for computers. However, they soon discovered Umbra, though it's not clear when or how. They began to fund the experimentation for it, hiding it from the public at Mann's Mannequin production and storage facility, where they also stored a lot of their hardware. They first began the experiment on inanimate objects, with some of the first being labeled as the Penumbra experiments. The word penumbra is described as the state of being between life and death. The mannequins were injected with Umbra, and they seemed to gain a sort of sentience, with chains of torsos forming centipede-like creatures as they used their arms to move around the warehouses. This didn't come without suspicion from the locals near the area, though. Allegedly, they reported hearing screams from the area at night. Many suspected the operations in there had to do something with the missing people in the area, yet, even with the amount of rumors against B Corp, nobody could prove anything. To top it off, nobody saw workers entering or leaving the building for weeks at a time. Not long after, a containment breach happened, and things went horribly wrong. B Corp attempted to cover up the true nature of the experiments. However, rumors still circulate among scientists that the Penumbra mannequins began to work together to serve a source entity, almost like a hive. B Corp was forced to burn down the entirety of the warehouses to contain it, but yet the Umbra still survived. Some of the Umbra had escaped into the sewer system, as locals began reporting hearing voices and movements coming from the sewers, and even seeing bodies. However, when authorities went to check it, it was only some plastic models. Little did they know, these were some of the B Corp's experiments. Not only did the attempt to contain Umbra fail, but thousands in B Corp's technology were destroyed in the fire. Despite the warning signs, B Corp continued on and built a new lab facility and better containment on a private island to prevent prying eyes. The remnants of the mannequins were then placed into storage, and the native tribes of the isle were pushed out. B Corp soon began to notice anomalies on the island and aimed to use them to their advantage. Later, this would be used to develop the portal system. The research on Umbra resumed, and the two scientists, who would be later known as Mantis and Spider, were put in charge of it. They began to experiment on living matter. However, as their research progressed, their difference in ethics began to arise. Spider was focused on the science of it, willing to do whatever it took to further his goals, not caring where B Corp's funding came from. Mantis was a lot more skeptical about it as progress continued, as she was very much against the experimentation on humans. She had always preferred the engineering aspect of her work, though as Spider continued, she idly stood by. While experimentation continued at B Corp, many new feats occurred. Umbra was able to be distilled into a stronger substance, but most importantly, a new entity was created. Organic lifeforms usually only had a 90% of their organic material mutated, but the experiment was a special case. For some reason, he had completely mutated, giving him the label of the Umbra Beast. Attempts to recreate this failed, and the researchers were left baffled. Soon, a greater facility was needed for the research of Umbra. Mantis and Spider worked together to engineer a space station for it, and not long after, the Umbra mothership was launched into orbit. However, Mantis began to question if it was all worth it, while Spider turned a blind eye in favor of progress. You see, Mantis had figured out a key detail. B Corp wasn't producing this stuff for research, but now for the scale of mass production. She had her suspicions and tried to express them to Spider, but he simply told her not to worry and that they had been given a rare opportunity. As experimentation continued, the amount of lives taken for his research began to pile up. Test subjects began to be transported from the lab to the mothership for further research. The effects of these experiments were horrifying. They corrupted the minds and bodies, barely rendering the subjects human anymore over a few days. The Umbra was learning from its previous interactions, as in some cases it began imitating the exoskeletons of the bug life on the island, such as beetles, frogs, and other creatures. You see, the Umbra was an intelligent substance, with a test subject even claiming he could hear it thinking. Spider was convinced he could steer it, but Mantis thought otherwise. After witnessing another horrifying result, she couldn't bear to stand by anymore, but by the time she acted, it was too late. Spider wanted the world to know what Umbra could do, to evolve the human race, but he felt that B Corp was limiting him, as they only had profit in mind. In a drastic change of events, he used the Umbra on himself, transforming him into the Spider we all know today. The mothership was overthrown, with B Corp's influence being removed entirely, leaving him to do whatever he wanted with the mass production facility. Almost all the personnel aboard the Umbra mothership were forced to surrender to him due to the sheer power of the Umbra mutation. Mantis tried to plead with him, but the Umbra had corrupted his mind. Spider planned to give everyone on the ship Umbra, and then take them through the return portal to invade the Isle and transform humanity using the Umbra Beast. In a final attempt to stop him, though, Mantis and 3 of her colleagues, Alice, Dr. Styx, and Polly, made a plan to stop him, promising each other to meet at the return portal that night. From here, I'm not entirely sure what happened, as it's radio silence in terms of lost files. I can only assume that once they entered the portal, they severed the connection to prevent Spider from reaching the island, and they set the experiment free to keep anyone from ever getting their hands on its capabilities. However, this didn't come without its risks, and B Corp was hot on their trail. In a final attempt to prevent Spider from ever reaching the island, the 3 scientists used the Umbra on themselves. Alice became the scaled serpent, protecting the waters. Dr. Styx became the gem serpent, protecting the land. And Polly became the feathered serpent, protecting the skies. This did not come without a cost, though. Alice and Dr. Styx lost their humanity in the process, becoming driven by pure instinct, but Polly somehow managed to retain hers, even though she seemed somewhat off. They all went into hiding from B Corp, and Mantis went to space to guard from above until she was needed. Spider wasn't giving up just yet, though. He had taken the surrendered scientists on the mothership and had begun experimenting on them with Umbra. In a final attempt to breach the island's defenses, he sent down 3 of his experiments, Frog, Leech, and Hornet. B Corp took the bait and placed the parasites in the heart of their facilities, where they would lay dormant until they were needed. While all this was happening, B Corp personnel were scrambling to recapture the experiment, which was wreaking havoc upon the island. They tried to send a team after him, but it was hopeless, as people couldn't evacuate quickly enough. The Umbra Beast soon began to take its toll on the island. You see, when the experiment killed his victims, trace amounts of Umbra were left on their corpses. Usually, they tended to mutate into frog spawn, or in rare cases, the body would be used as an anchor to bond into the surrounding geology. As victims of the experiment quickly grew in numbers, the island was soon left deserted from any form of life. The frog spawn went underground to avoid UV light of the surface, burrowing into the rock of the tunnels, awaiting whoever came across them. They would remain undisturbed until a fresh transport of prisoners crashed into the island. So yeah, that's the entirety of Isle 10's backstory. I won't dive into the details of the Orbit 2 ending, as they are mostly self-explanatory, but I may make another video delving into other parts of the lore for the new update. I'd love to see if you guys have any theories, so feel free to discuss them in the comments or join the Discord server. Other than that, thanks for watching, and have a nice day!